first time my wife told me she trusted a life coach's visions over my word, I thought it was a cruel joke. But then I saw the look in her eyes, wide, unblinking, almost feverish, and I knew something in my marriage had already snapped. Her name is Melissa. She's 34, a nurse at the county hospital here in Charleston, South Carolina. We met in college when I was 19 and she was 20, and from the very first moment, I thought I'd won the lottery. We married young, had our first child, Emma, when Melissa was 24, and then 2 years later came Noah. Emma's 9 now, Noah's 7. Until a few months ago, our house on Bay Ridge Avenue was filled with crayons scattered across the kitchen table, soccer cleats piled by the door, and Melissa humming while cooking dinner. It feels like a different lifetime. The shift started small, Melissa signing up for the Easy Clarity sessions with a woman named Celeste Rain. Supposedly a certified life coach, but really more like some Instagram guru with a velvet voice and way too much jewelry. I didn't take it seriously. I joked about it, even teased Melissa when she brought home stacks of Celeste's self-help workbooks with titles like Unlocking Your Sacred Energy and Breaking the Chains of Fear. But within weeks, it stopped being funny. Melissa became different. Paranoid. Obsessed with energies and signs. She'd wake me up at 2 a.m. to whisper that she could feel lies in the air. She started keeping journals filled with sketches and codes I couldn't make sense of. She stopped eating family dinners, claiming food dulled her intuition, and instead downed handfuls of supplements Celeste sold through her wellness program. Then one night, as I tucked Noah into bed, Melissa appeared in the doorway. Her face was pale, her hands trembling, and she said words that nearly knocked me to the floor. "Celeste showed me the truth about you. You've been unfaithful. And I don't know if the children are even safe with you anymore." I froze. Unfaithful? Unsafe? I wanted to laugh, to shake her, to ask if this was some twisted prank, but the rage boiling in her eyes wasn't a joke. Our kids stared at me, confused and terrified, as Melissa clutched their hands like I was a stranger breaking into my own home. From that night, everything unraveled fast. Melissa refused to share our bed. She stopped answering my calls while at work. She locked the bedroom door when she and the kids were inside. And always, she quoted Celeste, as if the woman was scripture, energy never lies. Visions reveal what the eyes can't see. I told myself it was just a phase. That she'd snap out of it. But deep down, I knew better. Because I've seen cults before, on the news, in documentaries, and my wife was slipping right into one, except this one didn't chant hymns or live in a compound. It lived inside our house. I tried talking to her. Begging her. I even reached out to her dad, Daniel, a retired Marine in his 60s who still carried himself like a man who could snap a neck with one hand. Daniel came over one Saturday, sat Melissa down, and demanded she stop. For a moment, I thought it was working, until she screamed in his face that he'd always been a liar too. Later that night, Daniel called me. His voice was low, rough. "You don't know who this Celeste really is," he said. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "She's not who she says. 20 years ago, she called herself Crystal Dawn. I knew her. I knew her real game. And son," he paused, swallowing hard. "Melissa's not just her client. She's her blood." The room spun. My hand shook so badly I had to sit down. Her blood? That's when Daniel confessed, 20 years ago, in his 30s, he'd had an affair with Celeste. She'd gotten pregnant, threatened to ruin his life unless he paid her off. He did. He set her up with a new name, a new life, and regular payments to keep her quiet. Melissa was that child. And his wife, the woman Melissa still calls Mom, was never told the truth. I couldn't breathe. My wife had been groomed since birth by this woman. And now, she was convinced I was the monster. Before I could even begin to process it, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from Melissa. Just 7 words that made my blood run cold. "Come home now or you'll never see them again." I looked at Daniel. I looked at my mother, who had just walked in holding a stack of papers she'd been digging up on Celeste's past. None of it mattered in that moment. Because Celeste Rain, Crystal Dawn, whoever she really was, had her claws in my wife. And my children were caught in the middle. And as terrifying as that was, it wasn't even the worst of it. Not yet. When I pulled up to the house that night, the air felt too still. Like the world was holding its breath, waiting for me to make the wrong move. Melissa stood on the porch with Emma and Noah clutched at her sides. They looked scared, but the way Melissa's nails dug into their little arms told me she wasn't going to let them run to me. "Don't touch them," she hissed the moment I stepped out of the car. Her eyes were wild, pupils blown wide like she hadn't slept in days. "I know what you did." "Melissa," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice calm, Let's just talk. Please. We can't do this in front of the kids. Her laugh was sharp and manic, the kind of sound that made my stomach knot. Talk? Oh, now you want to talk? After everything? After Celeste showed me the truth. Emma started crying, clutching her brother's sleeve. Noah looked at me with wide, pleading eyes, but when I took a step forward, Melissa yanked them back. She saw it, Melissa snapped. The residue. The patterns. The way you look at our daughter in the bath. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. My knees nearly buckled. What the hell are you saying? You touched her, Melissa spat. Celeste saw it all. She filed the report herself. The authorities are on their way. Before I could respond, 2 police cruisers pulled into our driveway, followed by a white van with Child Protective Services painted on the side. My heart slammed against my ribs. No, no, no. A woman in a dark grey suit stepped out, clipboard in hand, her face unreadable. Mr. Carter, she asked. I'm Dana Williams from CPS. We've received a serious allegation. I'm going to need you to step away from the children. This is insane, I said, my voice breaking. You can't just. Procedures must be followed, she cut me off. Behind me, I heard tires screech. Daniel's black Mercedes swung into the driveway. He jumped out, phone pressed to his ear, barking orders into the receiver like he was back on the battlefield. Williams, he said sharply, striding over to the CPS worker. You play golf with my partner, Richard Steinberg, don't you? Her face flickered, just for a moment. Mr. Carter, I didn't realize. These are my grandchildren, Daniel said smoothly. And this is a misunderstanding. Surely we can resolve this discreetly. Discreetly? That word made bile rise in my throat. I wasn't guilty of anything, but suddenly I felt like a man already convicted. I watched in horror as Emma and Noah were loaded into the CPS van. Emma pressed her small hand against the window, tears streaking her cheeks. Noah had gone silent, his thumb in his mouth, his eyes fixed on me with a hollow kind of fear. Daddy will fix this, I called out desperately. I promise. Melissa's laughter echoed behind me as the doors slammed shut. That night, I was taken to the police station and interrogated for hours. They had nothing, no evidence, no witnesses, nothing but Melissa's wild accusations and Celeste's so-called visions. But it was enough to keep my kids in foster care while they investigated. By the time I stumbled home the next morning, my mother was waiting at the kitchen table with bloodshot eyes and a stack of papers. They served you a restraining order, she said grimly, sliding it across to me. No contact with the kids. No visits. Nothing. I couldn't breathe. My chest ached, my throat burned, and all I could think was Emma and Noah must be so scared right now. But my mom wasn't finished. Her hands shook as she handed me another document. I had the supplements Melissa's been taking tested. The one Celeste gave her. The report was full of scientific jargon I couldn't decipher, but my mother translated, her voice shaking with anger. They're not vitamins, she said. They're hallucinogens. Low doses designed to make people suggestible. Paranoid. Melissa's been drugged for months. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. Drugged. Controlled. Broken down piece by piece. We need to go to the police, I said hoarsely. With what proof? Mom shot back. The pills are gone. Melissa threw them out when CPS got involved. She clenched her jaw, fire flashing in her tired eyes. But I have a plan. The next morning, Daniel called. His voice was low, heavy. She's losing it, he said. Melissa keeps begging for more supplements, but Celeste won't return her calls. She's threatening to hurt herself if she doesn't get them. Let me guess, I muttered bitterly. You want me to help? I want my daughter back, Daniel said quietly. The real Melissa. Not this puppet Celeste turned her into. My mom, who'd been listening, straightened. There's a way, she said softly. If Melissa's committed for her own safety, she'll be monitored. And if she talks, if she admits even a fraction of what happened, we'll have proof. Daniel hesitated, then agreed. Within hours, Melissa was admitted to Riverside Psychiatric. My mother already volunteered there, so she was ready with her phone, documenting everything. I paced outside in the parking lot for hours, my nerves stretched to breaking. When Mom finally emerged, she looked almost triumphant. She confessed, she said, playing the recording. Melissa's voice came through, slurred from sedatives but still clear, it was all lies. Celeste said if I accused him, I'd get everything, the house, the kids, the money. She said judges always believe mothers. The sound nearly broke me. Relief, grief, rage, they all hit at once. But before I could even catch my breath, the phone in my pocket buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You think you've won?" It read. Celeste was just the beginning. She has sisters. And they're coming for what's theirs. I stared at the words, my blood turning to ice. If Celeste was a storm, then this was just the first crack of thunder. The real hurricane hadn't even hit yet. When my mother told me Celeste had sisters, I wanted to laugh. I wanted to believe it was paranoia talking, another layer of madness stacked on top of everything else. But then she spread the photographs across the kitchen table, 3 different women, 3 different styles, but the same piercing eyes, the same predator's smile. Serenity. Trinity. Destiny. All running their own little empires in different states. Relationship counseling, spiritual healing, life coaching. Same strategy. Same trail of broken families left behind. I stared at the photos, bile rising in my throat. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I thought they'd stay away," Mom whispered, her hands trembling. "But if they're calling you, they know where we are." The doorbell rang just then, sharp and deliberate. We both froze. I peeked through the peephole. A woman stood there in a tailored navy suit, clutching a leather briefcase. She looked official, calm, professional, harmless. But her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Carter," she called sweetly. "I'm Serenity Moonstone. Rebecca's new therapist. The rehab center sent me." Rebecca. My wife. My broken wife who was still locked away in Riverside, recovering from the poison Celeste fed her. I kept the chain on the door. "Rebecca's therapist is Dr. Martinez." Serenity's smile widened. Oh, there must have been some confusion. Dr. Martinez had a family emergency. I'm covering his cases. "May I come in?" "It's about Rebecca's medication." Something about her voice made my skin crawl. "Leave the documents in the mailbox," I said flatly. "I'll review them later." For the first time, her smile faltered. "Just for a second. These require immediate attention. Your wife is having severe reactions. If we don't adjust her dosage..." My mother appeared beside me, phone already recording. "What's your license number, Miss Moonstone?" "I'll need to verify with the state board." Serenity's eyes flickered, dark and cold. Then the fake warmth slid back into place. "Of course. I'll have my office send that information." She backed away slowly. "I'll return when it's more convenient." We watched from the window as she got into a white sedan and drove off. I turned to Mom, my heart pounding. "They're not bluffing. They're here." She nodded grimly. "Pack bags for the kids. We're staying at my sister's until we figure out the next move." But as I reached for Emma and Noah's backpacks, my phone buzzed. A text from Melissa's number. "Please help me. They're making me do things. Celeste's sisters are here. They say if I don't cooperate, they'll hurt the children." My stomach dropped. "Mom," I said, showing her the screen. She immediately called Riverside. Melissa was still in group therapy. No access to phones. No visitors logged. "It's a trap," Mom said. "They're trying to lure you out." But what if it wasn't? What if Melissa really was in danger? I thought of Emma's hand pressed against that van window. Noah's silence. The way Melissa used to look at me before Celeste twisted her into something unrecognizable. Not again. Not this time. "Stay with the kids," I told my mother. "I'm going to Riverside." "Absolutely not," she snapped, blocking my path. "That's exactly what they want." We argued for minutes that felt like hours before we struck a compromise. She'd take the kids to her sister's house while I went to Riverside with Jonathan, a retired cop and family friend who'd been helping us document everything. The center looked calm from the outside, freshly mowed lawns, yellow-painted walls, flowers in the garden beds. It didn't look like a battlefield. But my chest told me otherwise. Jonathan and I signed in at the front desk. The receptionist smiled politely. "Rebecca Carter?" "Oh yes, she's in art therapy. You can wait in the family room." We sat in hard plastic chairs, the smell of disinfectant burning my nose. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Finally, Melissa appeared, escorted by a staff member. She looked different. Healthier. Her eyes clearer, her hand steady. She even smiled faintly when she saw me. "I'm glad you came," she said softly, sitting across from me. "I've been working on a letter for the kids. I wanted to read it to you first." She pulled out a folded sheet of paper and began reading. The words were gentle. Apologetic. Almost normal. But something was off. Her eyes kept darting to the corners of the room. Her hands trembled ever so slightly. Jonathan noticed too. He casually shifted his chair to block the door. "That's a beautiful letter," he said. "Did you write it yourself?" Melissa froze. "Of course. Why would you ask that?" "Because," Jonathan said gently, "your handwriting doesn't match the letters you've been sending." Melissa's composure shattered. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "They made me," she whispered. "They said they'd hurt my roommate if I didn't lure you here." My throat went dry. "Who?" "You already know," she sobbed. "Celeste's sisters. They've been sneaking in for weeks, pretending to be staff. They have fake IDs. They know everything. About the kids. About your mom. About you." The lights went out. Emergency red lighting flickered on. An intercom crackled, "Fire drill. Please proceed calmly to the nearest exit." Jonathan was already on his feet. "There's no drill scheduled," Melissa whispered. "This is them." The hallway filled with confused staff and patients. That's when I saw her. A nurse with a clipboard, ushering people toward a side door. Blonde hair, confident stride. "Trinity." "Not that way," Jonathan muttered, steering us toward the main exit. We were almost there when a shout cut through the chaos. "Mr. Carter, your wife collapsed." I spun around. Melissa lay on the floor, another nurse crouched beside her. The syringe glinting in her hand made my stomach turn to ice. "Destiny." "She needs her medication," Destiny said smoothly. "Help me get her to the medical wing." "Step away," Jonathan barked, his voice carrying that old cop authority. Destiny's mask slipped. Her eyes narrowed as she stood, syringe still in her hand. "This doesn't concern you, old man." "Everything concerning this family concerns me," Jonathan shot back, pulling out his phone. "And now everyone watching this live stream knows you just tried to assault a patient." Destiny lunged, but Jonathan sidestepped, shoving her into the wall. The syringe clattered across the floor. Security rushed in, but in the confusion, Trinity appeared again, her voice sharp, commanding, "These men are disrupting patient care. They're not on the approved visitor list." The crowd murmured, unsure. "They're not real nurses," Melissa cried hoarsely. "Check their IDs. They're fake." The guards finally moved to verify, just as Trinity and Destiny bolted, disappearing into a service corridor. By the time the police arrived, they were gone. Melissa was shaken but unharmed. "They've been here before," she whispered to the detective. "Different disguises. Gathering information. They know everything." That night, as I tucked Emma and Noah into spare beds at my aunt's house, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. "You can't protect them forever." I sat there in the dark, staring at my children's sleeping faces, feeling the walls close in. Because for the first time, I realized Celeste wasn't the monster. She was just the prologue. And the sisters? They were the real story. And they weren't going to stop until they destroyed me. That night at my aunt's house, I thought we'd finally found a safe corner. Emma and Noah slept curled together on the pull-out couch, my mother sat awake with her notebook and a cup of stale coffee, and Jonathan dozed in a chair with his phone still recording on his lap. But safety was an illusion. My phone buzzed at 2:13 a.m. An unknown number. Against every instinct, I put it on speaker. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Serenity's voice was smooth, like silk stretched too tight. "We don't want to hurt anyone. We just want what's ours." "You're owed nothing," I snapped. "Celeste blackmailed Melissa's father for 20 years. That's not an investment. That's a crime." She chuckled softly. "Perspective is everything, Mr. Carter. Do you know your son's teacher has been concerned about his behavior? Or that your daughter's been whispering things to her classmates about you hurting their mother?" My blood froze. "You stay away from them." "We don't need to touch them," Serenity said. "We just need to talk to the right people. Plant the right concerns. You've already seen how fragile the system is." Jonathan was texting furiously. My mother squeezed my hand under the table. "What do you want?" I asked. "Simple. Melissa signs over her trust fund to our charity. Kenneth," she used Daniel's real name without hesitation, "assigns his remaining assets to cover Celeste's legal defense. And you? You disappear with your children. Everyone wins. Except Melissa is left with nothing," I growled. "Melissa destroyed her own life," Serenity snapped, her tone hardening. "We're simply managing the aftermath. You have 48 hours. If you refuse, we move to Plan B. And trust me, you won't like Plan B." The line went dead. For a long time, no one spoke. They're bluffing, Jonathan muttered finally. They don't have that kind of reach. But my mom was already pulling up Emma and Noah's school website. Her finger trembled as she pointed to the staff page. Look! New counselor. Hired 3 weeks ago. The name burned into me, Dr. Destiny Starlight. The next morning, my phone rang again. This time, it was Catherine, the prosecutor from Celeste's case. I've been following the situation, she said calmly, her voice the only steady thing in my life. These women made a mistake coming after you. You're not their usual victim. You've got support. Documentation. And most importantly, you've got me. What can you do? I asked. I've been building a RICO case for months, Catherine explained. Racketeering. Organized crime across state lines. But I needed them to make a move. Now they have. My chest tightened. What's the plan? She laid it out. We'd play along, collect evidence, draw the sisters together. It was risky, but it was the only way to take them down for good. I'll need Melissa's cooperation, she added. Do you think she's strong enough? I thought of my wife, broken, poisoned, but slowly clawing her way back. Yes, I said firmly. We all are. The next 2 days were a blur of strategy. Melissa, temporarily released under supervision, met Serenity at a coffee shop. She wore a wire hidden in her jacket. I want to make this right, she said, her voice trembling but steady enough. Tell me what you need. Serenity smiled that predatory smile I'd seen before. Smart girl. First, your trust fund. I have the papers here. Meanwhile, my mother ran into Destiny at the school. My grandson's been acting out since the separation, she confided, feigning exhaustion. Destiny's eyes lit up. I specialize in children from broken homes. Perhaps I could help. Jonathan and I worked a different angle. We leaked word that Kenneth had hidden offshore accounts. Sure enough, Trinity reached out through a mutual contact, offering her services as a financial recovery specialist. Each sister thought she was playing us. None realized we were comparing notes, weaving together every lie, every manipulation, into a net they couldn't escape. The breakthrough came on the 3rd day. Rebecca, Melissa, returned from her meeting with Serenity pale and shaken, clutching a folder. Inside were documents for a charity Serenity wanted her to fund. But the charity's registration told a bigger story. It belonged to a 4th sister. Hope Everlasting. Celeste's twin. She's been hiding in plain sight, Catherine explained when we handed her the papers. Running a legitimate charity as a front for laundering the sisters' money. Every dollar they steal flows through Hope's organization. So we take down Hope, I said, the words tasting dangerous on my tongue. We destroy their whole system. Exactly, Catherine said. But to do that, we need them all in one place. Can you make that happen? That night, Melissa sat across from me at Jonathan's kitchen table, her hand shaking as she held her phone. I'll tell them I want to sign, she said. But only if they all come. I'll say I need to meet the women who've been caring for Celeste. Play to their ego. It was a brilliant move. The sisters agreed almost instantly. They chose the location themselves, a private dining room at the country club. The very place where all of this had started to unravel. When the message came through confirming the time and date, my stomach dropped. This was it. The trap was set. But instead of relief, all I felt was dread. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that predators don't go down quietly. They bare their teeth. They claw. They bite. And these women weren't just predators. They were professionals. And if we slipped up, even once, Emma and Noah would be the ones to pay the price. I lay awake that night listening to my children breathe in their sleep, wondering if I dragged them into a war we couldn't win. But there was no turning back. The sisters were coming. And so was the endgame. The night of the meeting, I couldn't breathe. My tie felt like a noose. Every car that passed the country club made my pulse spike. Emma and Noah were already safe, friends out of state had taken them in. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that their safety was fragile, like glass that could shatter with the slightest tremor. Trust the plan, Jonathan whispered as we waited in the parking lot. Law enforcement is everywhere. We've got this. But I knew better. Predators don't surrender. They fight until the last breath. Inside the private dining room, Melissa sat at the long table, every inch of her body trembling, though her face was calm. She was the bait. And the sisters were circling. Trinity entered first, businesslike in a crisp black suit. Then Destiny, barefoot in a flowing bohemian dress that brushed the floor. Serenity followed, dressed in sleek designer casual, a smile sharp enough to cut. And finally, Hope. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. She looked exactly like Celeste, same eyes, same jawline, but softer, with pearls at her throat and a cardigan like some suburban church volunteer. "Melissa, dear," she said warmly. "I'm so glad we can finally meet properly. Celeste spoke of you constantly." "I'm sure she did," Melissa said, her voice thin. She pulled out the folder Catherine had given her. "I have the papers. But first, I need to understand something. Why us? Why my family?" Hope sighed as if Melissa were a stubborn child. "You were never a target, sweetheart. You were family. Celeste didn't abandon you by choice. Your father forced her away. We've spent 20 years trying to bring you home." Her tone was perfect, soft, maternal, believable. Even knowing the truth, I felt the pull. Melissa played along, tears glistening in her eyes. "I wish I'd known," she whispered. "All those years, feeling like I didn't belong." "You do belong," Trinity interjected. "With us. Your real family. Which is why we must secure your future," Serenity added smoothly. "Kenneth stole decades from you. We're only reclaiming what's owed." Melissa's voice cracked. "And my children? What about Emma and Noah?" Destiny leaned forward, her smile unnerving. "They'll be better off without their father. In our care, they'll grow up balanced, spiritual, free." That was it. The admission Catherine needed. Conspiracy to commit custodial interference. The signal went out. The doors burst open. FBI. Nobody move. Agents swarmed the room, weapons raised. Chairs scraped, papers flew. Trinity reached for her purse, but 3 agents tackled her before she could move an inch. Destiny sobbed, collapsing to her knees. Serenity didn't flinch, her eerie smile stayed plastered on her face even as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Hope tried to run. She made it 2 steps before a female agent slammed her against the wall. The masks were gone now. The sisters' eyes were cold, animalistic. "You have no idea what you've done," Serenity hissed as they dragged her past us. "We have friends everywhere. This isn't over." But it was. The FBI had been building a case for years. Our recordings, the supplements, the forged documents, the meetings, they were the missing pieces. Now it was airtight. As Hope was led out, she glanced back at Melissa, her expression almost sorrowful. "You could have had everything," she whispered. "A real family. A purpose. Instead, you chose him." Melissa sat taller than I'd ever seen her, her voice steady. "I chose my children. And that's the only family that matters." The next weeks blurred into hearings, interviews, and court dates. The sisters were denied bail. Their assets were frozen. Hope's charity was exposed as a laundering front. Catherine told us it was one of the cleanest RICO arrests she'd ever seen. But for me, the victories were quieter. Holding Emma and Noah again after weeks apart. Hearing Emma whisper, "Daddy, I told the truth, lady, it was all pretend." Watching Noah finally sleep without clinging to my arm. Even Melissa, fragile, but chloride at last, began to heal. The poisons were leaving her system. For the first time in years, I saw glimpses of the woman I'd fallen in love with. We were scarred, yes. Shattered in ways I can't even describe. But we were together. And for a while, that felt like enough. 3 weeks later, I was making pancakes on a quiet Saturday morning when the phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "You think you've won?" The voice was raspy, unfamiliar. Celeste was just the beginning. She has more sisters. And they're coming for what's theirs. The line went dead. I stood in the kitchen, spatula in hand, batter dripping onto the floor. My children laughed in the living room, cartoons blaring. My mother stepped in, saw my face, and didn't need to ask. "Another threat," she said grimly, already reaching for her notebook. I nodded, my hand trembling. Because deep down, I knew the truth. The war wasn't over. It had only just begun.